to summarize on Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin is it's very volatile. It's getting jerked around. All risk assets are getting jerked around. Bonds hammered 20%, Nasdaq hammered 30%, S&P, gold hammered, silver hammered, and Bitcoin hammered. But on the other hand, tangible assets, oil, natural gas, food, any type of energy, they're all shooting up. And I think people are going through this moment where they're like, I guess I'm going to freeze to death or starve to death unless I have some of that tangible commodity stuff. And the financial stuff, I guess I'll trade it. And meanwhile, the politicians, you know, they play with the little knobs, attempting to do good. And it turns out that it's very difficult for humanity, for any human being, to actually make adjustments fast enough and intricately enough so that they can do good without probably doing more harm than good. And that's where we find ourselves right now. To be clear, I still think we're very early, but you know, that phrase, you know, there are decades when nothing happens, and you know, weeks when decades happen. It really refers to paradigm shifts. And you know, if you think about the paradigm shift when automobiles arrived, you know, there's the famous snapshot in New York City where, you know, there's just a bunch of horse and buggies, and 10 years later, it's all cars. And in that 10 years, you adopted it. And I remember, you know, standing once on the Pantheon and, you know, or on the Acropolis, and I'm like taking a photo and about to post it. And I think to myself, what's different about this? And I think, well, last time I was here, maybe a decade ago, I had no smartphone, I had no iPhone, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, you couldn't post it. There were no, you know, digital photography didn't exist. So a decade goes by and you're like, you know, you're trying to remember, you remember back in college, I went to college, we didn't have laptops, you know? Yeah. So when I was in college, there were no laptops, and I thought, well, what if I'd had a spreadsheet when I was doing engineering? You know, I went with an HP 15C calculator, and we had notebooks, and we wrote down 20 pages of calculations in a notebook with the calculator, you know. And I remember seeing people saying, well, you got a calculator? We use slide rules, you know. And you fast forward a decade and people have laptops. You fast forward another decade, you know, they have internet. You fast forward another decade, they've got YouTube and simulations, and now you're starting to question whether or not you even needed to go to college at all. Maybe you could have just sat at home. So every decade there's some profound paradigm shift, and the thing that hits you about a paradigm shift is it's such an out of the blue idea that no one can conceive of why you would even want it. I track the financial markets since we embarked on our Bitcoin strategy. So here is what's happened since August 10th, 2020, when we adopted Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset. Bitcoin is up 65%. MicroStrategy stock, and MicroStrategy's bought almost $4 billion, not quite, but nearly $4 billion of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy stock is up 66%. So we are tracking slightly ahead of Bitcoin. The S&P is up 14%. The Nasdaq is up 4%. Whoa, 4%. All of big tech is up 4%. Gold is down 18%. And you know, bonds, the ultra safe bonds, long-term bonds, down 18%. So in terms of asset classes, the crazy volatile Bitcoin is the best performing of all those major assets. And then you can say to yourself, well, I'm just going to invest in stocks. Okay, let's look at big tech. Google's up 37%, Apple's up 32%, Microsoft's up 16%, Amazon is down 22%, Facebook is down 45%, and Netflix is down 52%. Okay. little MicroStrategy, no one ever heard of, up 66%. Would you have guessed that a mid-sized software company, low growth, mid-sized software company, nobody ever heard of, would outperform Google in the last 2 years by a factor of 2? And you know, So last point I make, we compete against companies 100 times as big as us. Oracle, 100 times bigger than us. They're up 25%, IBM's up 3%, Salesforce is down 23%, SAP's down 47%. Okay, so what is the lesson of that? The lesson is we're in the middle of chaos. There is no place to hide. Your choice is you could buy gold, but gold is dead metal and it's just getting ground into the dirt, right? I can seize your gold. Gold is the half-life of money, and gold is 35 years. And you can't put gold on 8 billion iPhones. So the problem is there's no tech in gold, and it was a good idea in the 19th century, and it's centralized, governments can seize it, and the gold miners keep debasing it. They keep mining more gold, right? In the best year, you get 2% more. In the worst year, someone seizes a bunch of gold, dump it on the market, you get more than 2%. So people are looking for a safe haven. What's it going to be? Property in Africa? Property in Venezuela? Can't have property in North Korea. Property in Argentina? A business? A business where? A business in Argentina where the currency collapses? What good are your cash flows if the currency that you generate the cash flows are collapses in value? So I think here's the big idea, really big idea. Everybody in the world has to decide where they're going to locate their family. They have to physically, they have to decide where they're going to locate their themselves in cyberspace, their mind. Are you going to watch Facebook all day long? Are you going to read Twitter? Are you going to be on YouTube? You know, you're going to go to Rumble? Are you going to look at Instagram? Right? Where is your mind? Right? And then the third question is, where is your business? Are you going to run a yoga studio in Miami? How about a yoga studio in New York? How about, are you going to run a farm in Zimbabwe, a ranch in Argentina? Are you going to buy a company that has business interest in China? How about owning a bunch of businesses in Ukraine or Russia? Where is your P&L, right? And the fourth big idea is, where is your balance sheet? Okay, you're a podcaster on YouTube. Okay, well, you better make sure that you comply with YouTube platform requirements. Otherwise, they turn off your podcast and they crimp your business. That's where you generate your revenue and you generate your cost. But now, where are you going to save your money? Are you going to save it in U.S. sovereign debt? Are you going to actually store it in gold? Are you going to buy land? Where? In California, in Ukraine, in Russia, in Florida, right? Are you going to buy S&P index stocks? Are you going to buy Bitcoin? Are you going to buy art? So there were conventional answers to all these questions.